Hey, what's up, YouTube? Man up already if you haven't. What do I mean by that? Well, back in the day, when I started to collect, 10 years ago, I started to accumulate as much as I could. Matter of fact, one would say I was probably a hoarder. But I got to the point where my collection grew so fast, and I knew what people wanted because back in the day, when I started to sell baseball cards back in the 90s, I was blown away by what people would pay for cardboard. So as I was accumulating all this retro stuff, people were so focused on the cartridge that they really didn't want to include the manual. And so I always would separate the two and sell the cartridge and keep the manual. Well, eventually I got just a huge stack of manuals, and the joke was no one wants the manual, everyone wants the game. And I was kind of snickering and said, I think that will change sooner or later. And back then, price charting, they didn't have a price for just the manual. But again, me being a baseball collector back in the 90s, I kept mine, and then I knew I had something the moment that they started to price out the manual only price here. And so once this happened, I got a retail space with a friend of mine, and we pretty much put it in our cabinet. And I would price these at 50 to 85%. Now, obviously, if it's a rare game, I'm going to try to get 85% for the manual. But the more common stuff, I priced at 50 to 60, and it moved well. And the reason why you want to do this, first of all, people are always after the game. That's the first piece. Second piece is they want the manual, and then the third is they want the box. So give them what they want, and especially if you have no sentimental attachment to it, definitely give it to them. So the lesson here is when you find manuals or paperwork or anything retro related, don't be afraid to put an offer in and try to get it from people at the right price. So I'm going to end with a story. One of the guys that I hung out with, we went to one of the stores. It was one of the local mom and pop uh, flip stores, where they would buy everything and anything. And one of the items that we ended up finding was this Fire Emblem Path of Radiance. And I remember, back in the day, this was the game that everyone wanted for the GameCube. And the guy was so bummed because all he had was the case and the cover art. And I remember my buddy stepped right up and he said, "What do you want for the case and the cover art?" And the guy's like, "Well, I'm just gonna go throw it in the trash because it's really incomplete and no one will want it like that." And he said, I'll give you $5 for it." And then all of a sudden the guy kind of looked at him like, "What do you mean you'll give me $5 for it?" He said, "How about 10?" And I just remember he didn't even think twice. He's like, "I'll give you 10." The guy's like, "So will you give me 15?" And he said, "I just told you I'd give you 10." And so that's when I really knew that people were willing to pay up and trying to complete things because he wanted to complete this because he knew that the difference between the loose price and the complete price, there was a big difference between the two. And so that's when I really, really got aggressive and started stockpiling these manuals. And the long story short is that after price charting started to offer the manual only price, we ended up getting a spot at one of the local retail places, and our cabinet was just stocked to the gills with this thing. And we moved a lot of manuals and a lot of product. And then once people started to catch on, because this is a copycat world, that we were making money hand over fist doing this, that's when we left. So don't be afraid to make an offer on retro paperwork, whether it be a manual, a book. Do your homework, find out what stuff has been selling for because I really believe this is the next space to take off. The paperwork, the inserts. People want to complete this. So until we meet again, take care and God bless. Talk to you later.